So now we'll begin the fourth session for today. User-centered design is one of the most important paradigms in digital library design. While engaging users through different strategies is challenging, drawing sustained attention of the users requires natural user interface design of different levels of ability. The first session under this theme hosts 3 keynotes and will be conducted by Dr. Mihaela Vorberanu, Microsoft Research. I request Dr. Vorberanu to be on the dais and take the session forward.
Thank you. Good afternoon again. It is my honor to introduce Dr. Jill Cousins. Dr. Cousins is the Executive Director of the Europeana Foundation, building up Europeana from a project idea to an operational service. She has many years' experience in web publishing. Her past experience includes the commercial publishing world as European Business Development Director of VNU New Media and scholarly publishing with Blackwell Publishing running their online journal service. Prior to publishing, she had a variety of marketing and research careers in the information field. All are very divergent from her academic career in historical cartography and a PhD in 16th century Arabic and Turkish sea charts. Dr. Cousins will present a paper on making user stakeholders strategies to engage and collaborate. Please welcome Dr. Cousins.
Not to blast you with a lot of slides, but there are a lot. There are a lot of pictures though, so hopefully you will be a little bit entertained this afternoon. I will not talk very much about the kinds of things which Paul is going to talk about after me. I'm going to talk about more what we have done to try and engage the user and to make those users into stakeholders and into collaborators, if you like, with Europeana. So reading, listening, watching and viewing are superficially very passive activities. The writer writes, I read, a song is played, I listen, a picture is painted, and I look. But this really belies human nature. We want to get involved. We want to question, to interpret, to analyse, to put our own mark on things. The difference nowadays is that technology really allows us to do that, and you can make those reactions happen immediately. And possibly more importantly in the context of this talk, you can use users actually expect to contribute, and you can use that power of the crowd in order to enhance the data that you've got. I think it's enormously powerful. Not only does it help us deliver what people are actually looking for, but it gives us huge creative problem-solving capacity when our audiences actually become partners and collaborators, the true stakeholders. I've just moved there. You see, this is going to be really complicated. Going to say that way. So the opportunities that the digital world gives us to share and understand our culture are enormous, and users make those possibilities, I think, almost infinite. They can improve the material, they use and benefit from the material, and they make new things from old clothes. I can't do two things at once, I've realised. So I want to just give you a very quick overview of Europeana. You've heard a little bit about it from a couple of the speakers. This is not the most current version of the site, but I chose it because it's got these people interacting with a board out in the open. We do actually get users to choose our header image, so you will see that this is now at the moment a painting from the Moritz House in The Hague. You can search through 54 million items from 3,700 institutions across Europe. from the libraries, the archives, the museums, the audiovisual collections. It's a vast amount of data, and it's got all of the issues that the speakers have spoken about already with data quality, whether that data is open or not, how much you can actually do with that data. And in order to try and help the user beyond this 54 million search, we have done things like create Europeana collections. So these are thematic collections that allow you to enter in against your subject area. These are proving enormously successful, with people staying on the site up to 10 times the amount of time that they were staying on there before, and the click-throughs on here are also much more successful. You can also search the site for material on India. As you know, a lot of it was either removed from you by the British, shame on them, or has been taken into books and published by all sorts of people around the world. And I have quite a few, there's a lot of material that comes from India or is about India on Europeana collections. This one is actually from the National Library in France, and it was Mahatma Gandhi arriving at the Congress in New Delhi in 1937. So there is a lot of material. It is also there for you to use. It is free. The whole of the access is free. The only thing we ask is that you respect the rights label, so under what conditions can you use it, and that you attribute where it came from, so that they all go on putting more of that information up. We have a strategy for Europeana, so this lasts us through to 2020, but last year we thought this is getting a bit complicated. How can we refocus what we're doing? So we had a refinement of our strategy, and this has led us to these three priorities, which are to make it easy and rewarding for cultural heritage institutions, including the libraries, to bring their material into Europeana and get something back for doing so, so largely visibility or reuse of that material. That we need to scale with partners so that we know we can't do it all ourselves. And I'll go into this an awful lot more in a minute, but so that we are extending the reach through people who actually know the audiences that we are trying to reach with this material. Not that we try and do it all on Europeana. And the third area is that we engage people, so the European citizen, that we make them excited about their cultural heritage, that they want to participate in it, they want to make it better, they want to understand their own histories and hopefully become more tolerant of other people in the process. You never know. All of this is about bringing the data in. It's a multi-sided platform. It's about bringing the data in, making that data work across the languages. I think we deal with 32. So we're getting comparable with India in what we're doing. And then putting it out to 4 markets. We actually have 5 markets in Europeana. They are the cultural heritage institutions themselves, the European citizen, then markets which we call our reuse markets for research, education, and the creative industries. Now, I can make an argument about turning users into stakeholders for all of these markets. For instance, for the cultural heritage institutions, we work with them. They are seriously our partners. We don't exist if they don't contribute their data, but we also don't exist if they don't help us work on all the issues that we face. So we've produced a whole load of frameworks and standards which are going into effect in all of these cultural heritage institutions because they worked on them with us. So they very much are the creators and the users of the frameworks and the standards that we have developed together. And we go on doing that. And they are doing it because they are stakeholders in creating access to cultural heritage for everyone. We really always aim to make people into partners, that they, and this is how we work with the cultural heritage institutions, but also how we work with our reuse markets. And our reuse markets is all about this strategic goal of scaling with partners. Can we make the material that we have got available to educators, to the teacher networks, to the research networks, so they all make it work for their audiences? This is the secret weapon. So this is that you also have in the National Digital Library. It is the API. It is how do you get hold of this data without having to search for the site? How do you get hold of this data and make it work in your own sites? And we offer a variety of mechanisms for doing this. So we have the REST API, but you can also take the data via an OAI PMH endpoint and a couple of other things which are listed on this slide, which you may be able to see. This is really, really key to making a platform work. Actually being able to provide the data in ways that other people can use it and incorporate it into their own systems and make it work for their users. So I'm going to give you a couple of examples. The first is in research. So we have a research section on something called pro.europeana.eu. These are where all our end user markets, all our sort of professional markets are gathered. And under here, you can find all sorts of things that help you with tools and data as a researcher, particularly a digital humanities researcher. But also under here, we've run something called the Europeana Research Grants Programme. These are quite small grants. We're running one at the moment. You have to be affiliated to a European institution to apply for it, so it's not applicable really here. But the idea behind it is that students, researchers, fellows are able to make use of a small amount of money. I think they go up to, the total grant is 25,000, so it goes up to roughly 8,000 apiece, in order to dig into the data and to make it work for things that they are interested in. Last year we had 160 applications, 30 of which we could have funded, and we ended up funding 3. And this is an example of one of the ones from last year. So there's a grant winner from, I think he's from Glasgow University, and he took the data and made it work in his system, which is called Museum Scholarship Online. But he did some other stuff with this data which improved its reach and improved actually the visibility of that material as far as the cultural heritage institutions were concerned. So this is Timothy Dow. I should be able to, I can't even do the English name. Dugout? Oh yeah, never mind. He took the data that is in the Europeana music collection, and he combined it with the ARC data, academic research data, in order to create this music scholarship online site, where his users can go in and they can find not just the Europeana data, but other data in relation to music scholarship. They can collaborate with it, they can discuss it, they can do things within their own environment, and they do. But he took it one stage further. So for those of you who are interested, this is also good. So it meant that the people from within their own environment can actually get directly to the material that is held in Europeana, so they can come click through to the object. So this is actually an original Mozart manuscript in the National Library of France. And because we are now using the IIIF functionality, you can actually turn the pages of this book and zoom into this. So as a scholar, you really get to be able to use this, but again, in the context of the environment that you were working in. But he took this one stage further. So for those of you that are interested in metadata, I know I should be. This is the level that I'm interested in it at. that you can, they created a whole new standard. They created a standard so they were actually able to extend it and make it work as far as music scholarship was concerned. And that is very useful because that means somebody else is doing something that we can then apply into the Europeana music collections. We didn't do anything for this. They did it, we will bring it in. And further, they then put it up onto something called, something Diva it's called, I can't read it from here. And you won't be able to read it either. But it's a means of being able to see your data in the context of other data, very much like the linked open data stuff that we were looking at yesterday. And here you can actually see in this circle that the very dark blue one is the Europeana link, but where the interest is going is to the cultural heritage institutions themselves whose data it is. So they're getting additional visibility through this one guy who had a grant, made it work in his own system, and then did a whole load of other things as a result of it. My second reuse industry is the creative industry. And this one, I've left this slide in because it's a different area. I wanted to play you some music, but I couldn't make the music work in the Google slides. This is using images from within Europeana and sound from within Europeana, and they've combined the two. So this is a picture of Amsterdam. Most people have a view of Amsterdam as pretty houses, beautiful canals, boats. The music that sits behind this is things like the sound of the shipbuilding wharf. So you're hearing sounds of Amsterdam against pictures, and it's just a whole new way of seeing Amsterdam in a different context, but also using heritage material as new clothes, as I said before. So I can't show you it, but I thoroughly recommend it. It's called Revive, and was put together by the National Institute for Sound and Vision in the Netherlands. My second example in creativity comes from last year. We ran an exercise to try and get all of the member states, so all of the countries of the European Union, to give us 10 pieces of art that they thought represented their country's contribution to European art. And they came up with some amazing things, really high quality, a lot of it under open licenses, so you can reuse it. And it's that bit that was really interesting. So just one of the really many examples of reuse is this one, which is called Art Up Your Tab. This is my favourite application of anything that has ever come out of Europeana. I know I shouldn't say that. It's a Chrome or a Mozilla or a Safari extension. You download it, and every time you open a tab, you get a piece of art. And it gives you also a little explanation of what that art is about, if you're interested. And it just opens up your mind in whole new ways. You're seeing things that you would never bother to go and find. And I just love it because it gives you the education element, but it also gives it to you in a very easy to digest form. It's also very distracting because you just keep opening up all the tabs. Oh, I'll just see what else is in there today. So that's my fourth market, but this one is, I think, very pertinent to what you are doing here. So I've put a bit more effort into this one in terms of the numbers of examples. So this one is around education and what we do in order to get the material into the education market. We do not do it ourselves. We are not educators, we're not teachers, we do not know how to do it. I've got no idea how you teach somebody who is 5 years old, nor do I know how to teach the 14-year-olds. But we do know people who do, and we make use of them so that they do it for us. That actually starts at the top as well as at the bottom in this case. So these are also users and stakeholders in Europeana, and we make them work together. So in this diagram, it's a very recent thing that we put together with the Ministries of Culture, Education and education partners and the cultural heritage institutions across Europe. And the idea behind it was that we wanted to create a series of actions that meant that the material that was coming in from the cultural heritage institutions, I'm sure there is a pointer on here, it's just a case of me, yes. We wanted this material to work according to what the teacher was searching for, and actually we were using the subject of migration to concentrate our minds. So he's teaching in the classroom, he's looking for resources, he needs those resources to come from here. And most of the time, these two do not talk to each other, nor do the Ministries of Culture and Education. So the whole of this action is about getting these guys to talk to each other, getting these guys to talk to each other, and making use of the intermediaries so that the data will work in the systems that the teacher is using, and he can actually use it to teach about education into the markets. So in this case, we've really tried to turn the ministries into stakeholders in what we're doing. My second example of how we use existing education mechanisms is I think it's a French software company. They have taken the Europeana API and they have made it work in their systems. It's now available through them in theory in 34,000 classrooms across the world. We would never have been able to get that reach. We would never have been able to do it ourselves. So they're taking the resources and they're making them work in their classrooms. They're also interested in where other people have curated sets so that they will pull them in. And a good example of that is this one. This was a very neat, very easy, I think it's 5 to 9 year old application. You answer a quiz on 5 paintings. It's available, I think, in Italian, French and English, and they're going to incorporate this into the Benelux site as well. Nothing to do with us, we didn't do anything, we just provided the API. This is another example. So Historiana is for history educators across Europe. And they themselves create learning resources. This one is actually, it's not a very good picture, but it's a cartoon from the Second World War, and it teaches you things like criticism and how to compare one thing with another within the same cartoon. But it's a whole learning resource. Again, not something we would ever have done anything with. And I think my last one in this area is actually putting it into the national curriculums. I don't know how this works in India, but across Europe, each country has a different curriculum or several different curricula. And this is with the Ministry of France, and they have put it into their own education portal, Edutech. So they've taken the API, but they've also made pages available, and they're encouraging their teachers to take it up, make learning resources, share those learning resources in French. We would never do that. Don't have the resources. Which brings me to the final part, which is around participation. So this is really reaching out to the end users to get them to participate in material and improve the material. It goes to my fifth market, which is around engaging people, where we place the material where the people are. So this is why we put it into Wikipedia, into Pinterest. We try and really make it work where people are already. So we also use Facebook. We run competitions in Give It Up. We do all sorts of things that mean that they don't have to come into Europeana, but they will get the material wherever they actually are at that point. So the first one of this was a picture postcard competition. These postcards actually come from libraries of Southeast Europe. They've got quite big collections of them. And in order to get people to see them, use them, do something with them. We ran a competition where you had to take a photo that linked that photo to the postcard, and then we posted them up and ran a competition, and it was voted on. And this was hugely successful, with thousands of people actually coming in and doing this. So the other advantage of this is that you can also get the geo-coordinates of the area of this postcard, which makes these postcards more searchable. So we now need to pull that data back in. That's something that we have to resolve, but in theory we can do. This was one of, I think it was the actual winner, one of the winners, but I like this one. So they took the postcard, which was of a particular shot of, I think it's Dubrovnik, and they added the next bit in the modern photo along. So you're getting a kind of collage of the two things. But the engagement was enormous, and as I said, they've produced new metadata for us that we now need to find ways of taking back in. My second example is running at the moment. This is something we do with Giphy. It takes the material and people make GIFs with it. It is phenomenally successful. We've got, I think last year we had something like 70 million views, and I'm not going to get that right, but we had a huge number of views into the Giphy site because of this material. This year it's proving equally popular. People come up with some very curious and strange things. I like this one. I think we've all been here. And these are a couple of the other ones, and the kinds of reportage that we get on. But this is running at the moment, so I encourage you to go and have a look at it. It's a lot of fun. This one was to give you another idea that it's not just about images. I think that's one of the things that we are all suffering from. Getting people to get into text, to read text is pretty hard, but actually also getting them to take on board sound as opposed to film. And we, in a hackathon, produced Europeana radio. And we've gone on, it has, you can play it, it's very nice Sunday afternoon listening. It's just archival records that you can just sit and listen to. And it's divided at the moment into very broad categories of classical music, folk and traditional music, and popular music, which is not really enough when it comes down to searching, but this comes from the metadata that we have received from the cultural heritage institutions. So what we have done is actually run a sort of a competition where we're encouraging people to tag, and the list of tags that they have added is enormous, which actually then improves the searchability, the discoverability of that content in the first place. So it's engaging people in an area which notoriously does not have good metadata, not very good descriptions, getting their knowledge to improve what we're doing. This one is quite recent. We have created galleries. We have done these ourselves, but our aim is to make these so that users can do them themselves. So they create galleries of things which they like. It's very Pinterest based. I don't know whether Pinterest is common here, is it? So it's very Pinterest based in its concept. And these also appear on Pinterest. And this one I thought I'd put in because it's a recent thing where we're actually encouraging people who blog to blog on cultural heritage, and we've given them a status of a Europeana trusted blogger. So if they blog on something that is within Europeana, then we post it. This gives us a whole set of journalists that we never knew we had that are digging into the data and writing about the data. So the last bit is about contributing to our shared history. This is one story. This is my second favourite project now. Europeana 1914-1918. I would love to run this here. I think the contribution of India to the First World War is not widely recognised outside of India. There will be memorabilia that people have in their attics of people that in their family that served in the First World War, and they don't know what to do with it. So what we did with this was actually go around Europe collecting people's individual stories, digitizing it on the spot, taking the stories, uploading it onto the site, and then making it work with the material that we had received from the museums, libraries, archives, and audio-visual collections. It's hugely successful, and you get some amazing stories coming out of people. It's very emotional as well. And within that database, so it's Europeana 1914-1918.eu, you can actually find quite a lot of material already about India. This was a very nice story. I thoroughly recommend it. I'm not going to go into it because of time. About the experience of Kulwith Thapa in 1915 and written down. It's actually quite readable and transcribed on the site. You can also find, this is where I need my notes really. Anyway, this is a cemetery somewhere in, I think it's near Mumbai, which is a cemetery of soldiers who died here. And it was a British soldier that's died here and in this cemetery near Mumbai. This is the project that goes on giving. So as well as running these collection days where people are participating, putting their stories in, we have also started this transcribe-a-thon where people are transcribing those letters. So you saw that letter there. It's very difficult to read. If you want to read it in German or in German that was from a different period, or the French version or the Italian version, and you're reading somebody's handwritten letter, it's extremely difficult. So we have employed the power of the crowd to do the transcriptions for us. And people really love it. We have these runs. We've had a love run for St. Valentine's Day. We've had a Christmas run. We do them within countries, so you're doing all the stuff within your country. And this is a transcription, very literal transcription, including the misspellings of this letter. And I call it the Sudoku for the literary minded. So people are doing it on the trains, they enter into a competition, and they really enjoy it, and they contribute to making this material, which would otherwise be completely undiscoverable, discoverable. And I'm going to finish with this video of a girl that was in a transcribe-a-thon and really enjoyed doing it. I probably need to press this on here, don't I? From my... Or am I not? No, that was a disaster, wasn't it? That was always going to be the... Back to that one.
Fought with sticks and stones, and I don't think anyone wants that. So if I've learned anything, then that we should learn from the past and shouldn't forget about it or push it away.
I feel that we're part of something big that helps preserve the history.
I think these documents and this whole project shows how terrible war is. And I once heard a quote: if we have World War III, World War IV will be fought with sticks and stones, and I don't think anyone wants that. So, if I've learned anything, then that we should learn from the past and shouldn't forget about it or push it away.
So this is fantastic. This is a girl who came to the transcribe-a-thon. She came with her friend and she stayed, and she is completely addicted. She's transcribing everything she can get her hands on. So, whoops, no, stop. Okay, we can stop. Stop.
And this whole project shows how terrible war is.
And my question is, rather I would like to know about metadata standard which has been used in Europeana, particularly because this is going to be a great achievement, because the collection is huge from around 25 countries from the whole Europe, and a wide variety of documents are available in different languages as well. So same sort of schema or standard can be applied in our NDL. So that sort of, rather I would like to know more about the research methodology which has been used to create this schema.
Yeah. So I assume you're referring to the Europeana data model, which is what we've used to try and bring all of the existing standards together. So we haven't created new standards. We've taken Dublin Core, we've taken MODS, METS, EAD, and we've tried to make them work within the Europeana data model, and then we've gone on extending that. I think it's got its pluses and its minuses. I think actually Enno can probably talk about it much more than I can. It has definitely served a purpose. It is an extremely rich model, but I think we need to make it easier for people to use if we're going to really continue with it. And it's like everything I think we spoke about yesterday, that actually for people to use things, they've got to be very intuitive and very easy to do so. And you sort of need a degree in metadata, I think, to be able to really use this. Fortunately, most librarians really like this stuff, and they put the bit of effort in that maps one to another, and we've got the mappings and all of those kinds of things. So we try and make it easy. And then beyond that, we use, we've got mapping tools that other people have developed, and when people are putting their data into that system, it's then automatically mapped into the Europeana data model, and we need more of that kind of thing. Very waffly answer. There is an awful lot about this on pro.europeana.eu, so if you're really interested, go and have a look at that. Don't listen to my non-knowledge about metadata. I'll take any other questions that are not about metadata.
Hi. I wonder what happens to all the information that is produced in this collaboration layer. I mean, does it go back to the institutions that are guarding the...
I don't want that question either. Yes, it should. So we've had several actually, goes to annotations, and the issue is we can take it in and we can enrich what we're doing. To put it back into the institutions requires that they are ready to take it, and they're not. So I think again we need to find a better way of doing that. So maybe it is, this is all come in, it gets stored in the cloud, here's your unique identifier for it, you can take it back, rather than us trying to create pipelines back, because that's not happening. So that is part of making it easy and rewarding. It won't be this year, but it's certainly intended. Yeah.
Any other questions?
Stunned into silence.
All right, thank you so much, Dr.
Ooh, I have to do this bit.
Yes, so please
Back up.
and allow me to present you a memento.
Thank you so much. Thank you, everybody.